dark side of Venezuela. Imagine a paradise on earth, blessed with natural beauty and resources, but hidden beneath the surface lies a dark reality. Picture Venezuela, a land of breathtaking landscapes, from the towering peaks of the Andes to the golden beaches of the Caribbean coast. Imagine its teeming jungles, the vast savannas, and the awe-inspiring Angel Falls, the highest waterfall in the world. Picture the country's abundance of natural resources, a treasure trove of oil, gold, and other precious minerals, making it one of the richest lands on the planet. But now, let's peel back the layers of this picturesque paradise. Beneath the surface, a different story unfolds, a tale of corruption, economic collapse, political unrest, and human suffering. A narrative that has been hidden from the world for too long. This is not a simple tale of paradise lost, but a complex saga of a nation in crisis. This is the story of the Venezuela you don't often see. But wait, before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my crucial stuff. Comment, "I subscribe" below, and I will personally welcome you to our community. Let's get started. Venezuela is a country rich in oil, but why is it that the people are struggling to make ends meet? Well, let me tell you a story. Imagine a nation sitting atop the largest oil reserves in the world. You'd think that the wealth would trickle down to its people, wouldn't you? But alas, Venezuela, the land of plenty, is a paradox of sorts. Despite its vast oil wealth, the nation is steeped in a deep economic crisis, with its people battling crippling poverty. So what's the catch? Why hasn't the black gold brought prosperity to the Venezuelan people? Well, the answer lies in a cocktail of mismanagement, corruption, and economic policies that have gone awry. You see, the oil industry, which accounts for a staggering 98% of Venezuela's export earnings, has been mismanaged to the point of near collapse. The government, instead of investing in the industry's maintenance and improvement, has funneled the oil revenue into social programs. While these initiatives may seem noble, the lack of foresight and planning has led to a neglected and deteriorating oil industry. And then there's the issue of corruption. It's an open secret that the oil wealth has lined the pockets of the political elite, while the majority of Venezuelans grapple with hyperinflation, food shortages, and a healthcare system in shambles. The corruption runs so deep that it has crippled the economy and left the oil-rich nation in a state of despair. But the tale doesn't end there. In a bid to control the economy, the government implemented strict price controls, which instead of stabilizing the economy, led to shortages of essential goods. This, coupled with the falling oil prices, has plunged the nation into an economic crisis of unprecedented proportions. So here we are. A nation blessed with an abundance of oil, yet its people are struggling to make ends meet. It's a stark reminder that wealth is not just about what you have, it's about how you manage it. The wealth of the land has not translated into a prosperous life for its people. And that, my friends, is the dark and twisted tale of Venezuela's oil paradox. In a world where democracy is hailed, Venezuela's democracy is in crisis. Imagine a country rich in natural resources, with a population yearning for their voices to be heard, yet the very institutions designed to protect their rights are crumbling. This is the reality of Venezuela today. At the heart of Venezuela's crisis is the erosion of democracy. It's a tale of a government that has managed to consolidate power, bypassing the checks and balances that are the cornerstone of a functioning democracy. The National Assembly, once a beacon of democratic representation, has been stripped of its power, replaced by a constituent assembly that is largely seen as a puppet of the ruling party. The judiciary, another pillar of a democratic society, has been compromised, with judges who dare to oppose the regime finding themselves ousted or even jailed. The media, a crucial watchdog in a democratic society, has been muzzled, with independent outlets shuttered and journalists harassed or even imprisoned. In the face of such challenges, the people of Venezuela have not remained silent. They have taken to the streets in protest, braving the backlash from a government increasingly intolerant of dissent. Yet their cries for change have been met with violence and repression. The erosion of democratic institutions and freedoms is not just a political issue. it has real, tangible effects on the lives of Venezuelans. It means that the government is not accountable to its citizens, that decisions are made not in the interest of the people, but in the interest of those in power. It means that the very people who should be protected by the law are instead often its victims. In the international arena, Venezuela's democratic crisis has not gone unnoticed. Countries around the world have voiced concern, calling for the restoration of democratic norms and institutions. Yet the situation remains fraught and complex, with no easy solutions in sight. In Venezuela, the voice of the people is being silenced. In a world where democracy is held as the highest ideal, it's a chilling reminder of how quickly it can be undermined. Before we continue, can I beg a little favor? If you're liking what you're hearing, show us some love by pressing that like button. And hey, if you want to be in the loop for our fantastic upcoming videos, make sure to press subscribe and ring that bell so you're always in the know. Oh, and one more thing, drop a quick "I subscribe" down in the comments, and I'll make sure to offer you a warm welcome to our amazing family. All right, enough of that. Let's keep the conversation flowing. Behind the political turmoil and economic crisis, there are real people suffering. Let's delve deeper beyond the headlines and statistics to the human cost of the situation unfolding in Venezuela. Imagine waking up each day not knowing where your next meal will come from or if it will come at all. This is the stark reality for many Venezuelans. The country, once boasting of its oil wealth, is now grappling with severe food shortages. People are forced to wait in long, winding queues for basic necessities, often returning home empty-handed. Children, the most vulnerable, are severely undernourished, their growth stunted, their futures uncertain. But the hardship doesn't end there. Picture needing medicine for a chronic illness or life-saving treatment, only to find that hospitals are woefully short on supplies. From antibiotics to chemotherapy drugs, the lack of medicines is a grim reality in Venezuela. It's a crisis that forces some to make unimaginable choices, whether to buy food or medicine, a decision no one should ever have to make. And then there's the exodus. Millions of Venezuelans have fled the country, seeking refuge elsewhere, leaving behind their homes, their families, their lives. These people embark on perilous journeys, driven by desperation and the hope for a better future. They are teachers, doctors, students, parents, ordinary people caught in an extraordinary crisis. The human cost of the situation in Venezuela is not just quantifiable in numbers. It is reflected in the worn-out faces of parents unable to feed their children, in the desperation of the sick, unable to access treatment, in the tears of those who have left everything behind. Each story is a stark reminder of the personal tragedies unfolding amidst the broader crisis. As we delve into these issues, we must remember that behind every figure, every statistic, there is a human being with a story, a life disrupted. It's these stories that compel us to look beyond the political rhetoric to see the real human cost of the crisis in Venezuela. The people of Venezuela are paying a heavy price. While Venezuela struggles, the world watches, but is watching enough? As the crisis in Venezuela deepens, the international community has not remained silent. Many nations and international organizations have taken steps to alleviate the suffering and address the root causes of the crisis. Yet, the question persists, is the world doing enough? The United Nations has been at the forefront of the response, providing humanitarian aid to millions of Venezuelans and advocating for dialogue and peace. Yet the sheer scale of the crisis, with millions displaced and facing severe food and medical shortages, presents a daunting challenge. Meanwhile, nations across the globe have made their voices heard. Many have imposed sanctions on Venezuela, aimed at pressuring the government to change course. These sanctions, however, have sparked debate. Critics argue they may inadvertently exacerbate the very suffering they aim to alleviate, by further crippling an already devastated economy. On the other hand, some countries have taken a more hands-on approach, providing direct aid and welcoming Venezuelan refugees with open arms. Countries like Colombia and Brazil have borne the brunt of the refugee crisis, sheltering millions of Venezuelans fleeing their homeland. Furthermore, international NGOs have played a pivotal role, stepping in where governments have failed. They've provided essential services from healthcare to education to the most vulnerable Venezuelans. Yet, their work is often hampered by logistical challenges and a lack of resources. In the midst of this global response, it's clear that the crisis in Venezuela is not just a Venezuelan problem, it's a global one, and the world's response, while commendable in many ways, has not yet been able to fully address the magnitude of the crisis. The reality is the situation in Venezuela calls for a sustained, comprehensive international effort. It requires not just aid, but also diplomatic engagement, economic support, and a commitment to uphold human rights. So as we reflect on the international response thus far, we must also look ahead and ask ourselves, what more can we do? What more should we be doing? As Venezuela continues to suffer, the question remains, what more can the world do? In the face of adversity, the human spirit remains unbroken. Venezuela's tale may seem grim, yet it's a land where hope hasn't been entirely extinguished. The nation's heart beats on in the hope and resilience of its people who, even amidst the crisis, are making a difference. There are stories of courage and resilience, like the community that banded together to create a self-sustaining farm, providing food for their families and neighbors. Or the school teacher who, despite the lack of resources, continues to inspire her students with the power of education. These are the unsung heroes of Venezuela, individuals who, in the midst of despair, are lighting the way towards a brighter future. They remind us that even in the darkest times, the human spirit can rise, demonstrating an indomitable will to survive and thrive. Despite the darkness, there are sparks of light in Venezuela, and it's these sparks that give us hope for a better tomorrow.